Now, many of you know me that in 1992, I have 3 ADD children. And my youngest son was at 10 at that point, and he was, of course, the most ADD. My son was a challenging kid. In school, he was always getting on the tabletops and taking condoms to school and all sorts of things. Well, by 10 years old, they were finally going to put him on Ritalin. That just did not sound right to me. And I had heard about the missing beta brainwaves in the left hemisphere from Dr. Amen's work and others. I thought, why don't we form a team at the Monroe Institute, get some beta behind good music? And I've been, for 30 years by that time, an expert on quantum learning. So I definitely knew how to create the music for the quantum learning music. And most of you know then that we knew that music is the bridge, that music is the one single source that naturally synchronizes both hemispheres of the brain. In all other cases, one hemisphere or the other is in control. So these kids had a lot of beta in their right brain, but what's in the right brain? Movement, visuals, distraction, subconscious, creativity. Definitely not sitting there and having the teacher talk to them and staying in one spot. So there is, in the right brain was all of the beta. But I thought, what if we bring over, in the quantum learning style, a beta brainwave in both areas? Sound like a pretty good research project, yes? That was my first. My son was my first topic, and I would put him to sleep every night on Metamusic with the alpha theta, which the Monroe Institute's famous for. And then I'd say, wow, what happened? He goes, oh, I was off on a spaceship, and they did this, and they took me there, and I was like going, whoa. Okay, you want to try another one? No, I want a new one. I've already done that one. So I went through, must be 30 of the Metamusics that were around at that point. But during the day, he would use the beta, which we called remembrance. Beautiful story. 3 months later, he rewired and went out of ADD. Went on to get B+ average all the way through high school and graduated recently from college. Hey, I thought I was going to stop there. But then a lot of you heard remembrance and you started using it for other people when you heard the stories. Now, how many of you have not heard the remembrance stories? Only a couple of you? Okay. I was not going to because I know so many of you have done that. Before I get into the remembrance stories, so whole brain learning is best because research has determined that all giftedness, not just learning, implies quick shifting between the special aspects of the two cerebral hemispheres. I have never been a right brain, left brain person. I think that they simplify it way too much. But I believe if we have two hemispheres and they're connected by the corpus callosum, that we probably need 1 + 1 = 5. And that's what I think happens, particularly when you add in Metamusic. This is an image one of my students did for my book that just shows you the different aspects. So it's not that just language is in the left hemisphere, but I think for the most part it is. And all visualization starts at the right brain and then moves across the corpus callosum. What I think is very important to know that creativity does generally come through the right hemisphere. It is the visual brain. It definitely is the brain that you need to surrender to when you're here. But with learning, too many of these kids are in our classrooms surrendering to the right brain, going into an alpha state, and nobody's home. Now, I can tell you within 10 minutes of putting on Metamusic with beta in my classes, because all of a sudden my lectures get better. My students are with me. They're asking questions. Does that make me feel better? Not a trick question. Yes, it does. What I like, though, is we get into this big interaction. I don't like lecturing to people. So very quickly, then, why is music the single input which naturally synchronizes the hemispheres? This is it. So music is the truly whole brain event. Now, my concept when I teach my students, and I can take any student who is getting a D or an F in math, and in using 5 takes, we can get them to an A or a B 6 weeks later. Now, somebody called that a placebo, but from then on, they know how to do math. So I don't think it's a placebo. Some of that package, we have them at night doing brain repair and maintenance, retain, recall, release. If they're doing math, you know by the numbers. During the daytime, they pick one of their favorite betas, and every time they listen to it, they're studying math. Do you get the concept? You need to have a different piece of music for each subject. Now, you don't have to pick a piece of music for your favorite subject because you're already learning it. Can you understand that? You pick the Metamusic with the beta for the subjects that you don't like. Now, a lot of us have had that phenomenon of all of a sudden my kids can't stand it, but we'll be in the car and oldie will come on and I'll start singing all the lyrics and they thought it was their music. I haven't heard those lyrics for decades, but then all of a sudden after I sing all of the songs, I'll remember who I was dating and what the turkey did. Okay, here's the deal. What goes in repeatedly with music comes out even 10 and 20 years later. If I go A, B, C, D, H, I, J, K, that's it. Okay. So we use that same concept and it's just very simple for the students. So 4 years later, I got the bright idea to do the Mozart effect, which had been studied at Gordon Shaw at UCI. And we used the Mozart piece that he had used to show IQ raising for 10 points, but only for 30 minutes after the test. I thought, well, wow, maybe if we had hemi-sync, we could do it longer. So we created Einstein's Dream. This was Mozart's favorite piece, or Einstein's favorite piece of Mozart. I personally can only use Einstein's Dream when I'm doing my taxes. Okay, it keeps me from rage. But I cannot study with it's very, very piano driven. Yes, but my hyperactive boys swear by Einstein's Dream. They absolutely, particularly adolescent boys onwards, swear by it. The beta brainwaves, which are underneath the music, obviously drive beta endorphins, which is why so many people are feeling so good when they're listening. But that helps the learning because, have you ever noticed, you need the joy of learning all of a sudden. It's very, very interesting. So the beta endorphins obviously have to be triggered by the beta, my personal belief system by now. A lot of people ask me, how transigent is the effect? Generally when they rewire, which is about 6 weeks, permanent. I have over 40 students right now who were diagnosed as ADD dyslexic, and they all said within 6 weeks they went on to not have ADD, not have dyslexia, raise their grades and move on. My favorite remembrance story actually that showed me about beta endorphins, I guess, I had a veteran back from Iraq, and he heard my lecture on hemi-sync and quantum learning. He says, I'm sorry, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. But I am getting an F in math, and so I will use it. But I don't believe a word of it. So 2 weeks later, he came and apologized in front of the whole class, and he said, this shit works. I'm up to a B already. And I go, wow, that's so cool. So 2 months more, and he came and he says, okay, I got a story for your book. I'm up to an A in math, but the other day I'm in the library. If I get an A on this final test, I get an A in that class. I'm studying. Remember, it really focuses you, but all of a sudden, my heart starts to get really, really big. And my wife's face comes in my head. And I realize I've been really ignoring her and I've been mean and I need to go home and tell her I love her. I said, wow, that's got to be the beta endorphins. He goes, yeah, but then all of a sudden it kept getting bigger. And I realized I've been really nasty to my kids and I need to go home and be nice to them. And I go, wow, that's beta endorphins. He goes, yeah, but then I looked at everybody in the library and I love them too. So we now are suggesting it for people who have depressive issues. In fact, we don't suggest the last 4 for anybody who's bipolar in a manic stage. Can you understand that?